Texas Government Code 551. And we adjourn to closed session. In regular session, everyone would please stand for the...
All right. Wow, look at all the visitors we have. Thank you for coming. All right, guys, if you feel comfortable doing so, please pray with me. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day. And Lord, thank you for the summer. Thank you for leading us through just a phenomenal school year. We appreciate your guidance in everything that we did. Bless our meeting tonight. Bless our board members, our staff members. And Lord, just thank you for our children. Please just provide them your love, your guidance, your wisdom, and your protection at all times. It's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, let's see. Let's have our state championship team leader lead us in the pledges today. Coach Johnson, please lead us in the pledges.
Can I do it from here?
Yes, you may.
All right, here we go.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee.
Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Somebody teach Joel the Texas pledge. No gift. Sorry, Joel.
Okay, number 5, public participation, and there
Brenda?
are none. Thank you. Okay, 6, consent agenda. Board.
Madam President,
Mr. Wright.
move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Wright, seconded by Mr. Sluter. All those in favor? 7-0.
Thank you, board.
Yeah.
So you're halfway done already.
I know. Number 7, discussion action items. A, package O2 GMP for Lance Thompson Elementary School. Dr. Warren.
Board, the information on our second bid package for Lance Thompson Elementary School begins on page 59 in your packet. If you remember, you approved number 1, which was a much smaller one for this last month, and then this is the big one. Tim is coming to us. Had a great bid process. Opened those bids last week, and we are asking you to recommend for bid package number 2, $23,476,455. So Tim is here for you to ask any questions too about the actual package itself or the bid process. And after your questions, I would recommend that you approve bid package number 2.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, ladies first.
Okay. I just have a question because I thought last time I asked, what was the total cost for building that particular school? Was it $25 million?
Yeah, it was a little over 25. I stated about 25 last time, but it is actually, we were within the bond budget that was allowed.
Yeah.
Is that better?
There we go.
Now, there we go. Yes, I stated approximately 25 million last time. I didn't have the exact number. We're actually 25. I want to say it's like 25,980 or something. So this is well within, not well within, but just slightly within the bond allowance that was in the package. Just to give you a comparison to what we're doing right now. So a year ago, we bid the elementary 18 Lizzie Curtis that's under construction right now. If you remove the storm shelter component from this one, because that's a big cost. We've talked about that before. The cost to build those type of spaces is much more, is a much heavier cost than that. We're only about $1, actually a little less than $1 more per square foot on this building. So it's in line with construction costs, actually probably better than what we're seeing in the industry right now with some steel escalation and some concrete escalation. So feel real good about the price, and it does come in within the allotted amount that was in the bond item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Tim, on the contractor, what other projects have they built for us?
Joris has built the Northwest ISD JV or sub-varsity stadium for us. They're currently doing work on the Ag Barn upgrades and the Prairie View and Hatfield roof renovations and HVAC replacements.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Madam President,
Mr. Sluter?
I move to approve the guaranteed maximum price for the bid package 02 for Lance Thompson Elementary School in the amount of $23,476,455.00 as recommended by the administration.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Sluter, a second by Dr. Roush. Any other discussion? All those in favor? 7-0.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Okay, B, Local District Policy Update 2018.04, affecting Board Policy AE Local and Board Policy EIC Local, and exhibits. Action item. Dr. Warren.
Board, the information on AE Local and EIC Local begin on page 86 in your packet. If you remember, Christy presented this to you last board meeting for as a discussion item for approval tonight. AE primarily deals with the change in our strategic framework, updates our mission, our vision, our statement, our beliefs, and our goals. And then EIC actually is an update from TESB regarding academic achievement, class ranking. Just removes some old references to older programs and comes in with a new language. So after Christy is here again to answer any of your questions about her presentation last board meeting, and after that I would recommend approval.
Hey, Madam President.
Mr. Sproles.
I move to approve Local District Policy Update 2018.04 and update board policies AE Local, EIC Local, and EIC Exhibit as recommended by the administration.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Sproles, seconded by Mr. Wright. Any other discussion?
I do have a few questions. You know, we took out some language, Christy, on some of this that did you think was superfluous or it was redundant? I was kind of curious. And I'll give you for instance, on AE Local, one of the statements was create and foster an environment where all stakeholders are engaged in the transformational work of the NISD family. And it used to include provide timely, open communication and positive parental and community partnership opportunities. So I'm just kind of curious why we decided to remove those types of languages.
Well, the changes to AE Local are based on the committee that reviewed the strategic framework and months of review and months of wordsmithing by folks who are very, very close with that. I don't know that I could speak with great authority on why that particular change was made. Dr. Warren, would you have any?
It just reflects what was voted on for our new framework.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything? Okay. All those in favor? 7-0.
Thank you, Board.
Okay, C, notice of public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate. Dr. Warren?
Board, the information on the proposal for the public meeting today begins on page 102 in your packet. Mr. Hastings, one of the things we have to do, every year before the adoption of the budget is have a public meeting, and before the adoption of the tax rate is conduct a public hearing, and so we have to actually do the notice for that public hearing. John, of course, recommends that we do that the same night. We always do it the same night as the adoption, so he is recommending, and according to the notice that we've placed in your board book, it will be on Monday, June the 25th, 2018, and it will be at 6:30 p.m. That will be the first thing we do when we come out of closed session, and that will, when Judy calls that hearing to order, any taxpayer, any staff member can come ask questions about the budget, about the tax rate, and you by code you have to do do that before you can officially adopt the budget. So, Madam President, I would recommend approval for the public notice of the meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate.
Madam President, I move to approve the notice of public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate as recommended by administration.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Simpson, a second by Dr. Roush. Any other discussion? All those in favor? 7-0.
Thank you, Board.
Okay, D, possible nomination for the TASB Board of Directors for TASB Region 11, position D. Dr. Warren?
Board, this is completely your pleasure. We talked about this last board meeting, and you had a couple of weeks to think about that. This is completely the board's decision on this.
Anybody have any recommendations?
Does anybody want to be?
Yeah.
Do any of you want to be?
I mean, everybody's here, so we can't nominate the one who didn't show up.
Good thing I came this week. Okay, we're good?
Okay.
No action on that.
Yep.
All right, E, Student Code of Conduct, discussion item. Dr. Warren?
Board, Susie is going to bring you your first reading of our new Code of Conduct. She has done a fantastic job, as usual, working on this, and so she will go through there and give you the highlights of any possible changes to the code, and then you will be asked to vote on this on the 25th. Susie, please.
Great, thank you. It's really pretty a light year since we don't have any major changes in Austin, but we do have a few things that we have changed for our own benefit, but also some other changes. As always, the purpose of the Student Code of Conduct is to make sure that we create an atmosphere that's best for learning for students. We do have a process in place that we use every year, and it's been pretty effective. And we have a lot of stakeholders have input into what is in the handbook. However, some things that we can't change just because of legal, but it's been very effective. Our handbook is published online in English and in Spanish. It is also available hard copy in English and Spanish to any of our families that request that. Our handbook supports our core beliefs, our vision, our mission, as it has in the past, and with our current changes in our beliefs, it still supports that. And it's also aligned with our strategic goals. A few minor changes are open records request, the process, and is now going to go through our legal counsel or general counsel, and so that's very noted in there so that parents will know who to contact when they do have an open records request. As you all know, not only financially, but more importantly, attendance matters. And teacher effectiveness is the strongest related determinant for student success. But we know that chronic student absenteeism can undo the most effective teacher. So in working with Tricia Atzker-John, our nurse, and some other people in the district, we have looked at adding some guidelines for parents. The big question is, when do I keep them home if they're sick, and when do I send them if they're sick? So we've tried to clear up some misconceptions or just give them some more clarity. So attendance guidelines, there's mornings when it's difficult to tell whether or not your child is, or your wife, or your husband, too ill to go to school or not. And so we do have some guidelines for children's temperature, just the importance of attendance to student success. I don't think that we can tell that to parents enough. And so we just really want to be able to help them. Our clinics are really a first responder many times for illness. If you go there in the morning, there's many times parents are in there. My child's ear hurts. Could you look in there? So we really want to create that partnership. So we have some minimum criteria for returning to school. Most all of it has key phrases like 24 hours, fever-free, without medication, or maybe something's covered up with a bandage. So it's kind of That was the common strand when I've been reading this several times. The list is not all inclusive, but we just want people to know that there's minimum requirements, not just for their own children, but they're also not giving those diseases to other people. And then we just have the cycle. And we see that lots of times in the winter with flu. And then the flip side of it is that when people don't come to school when they are well. And so we have shored up some of our attendance. It's not new. It's just a better emphasis. We also just came out with, had some new things come out today, some new guidelines, so that we know what kind of communication that we will be sharing with parents. So this is the particular, changing the wording that can refer either the parent or the student to truancy court. And then also that the administrators and teachers value that communication and encourage parents to notify the campus when the student is absent. We also have in place, or if it's not already, it will be by the time school starts, is that you can go on any campus's website and there's a button that says report absences here. So we've tried to make that very easy for parents to, make sure they are documenting their kids' illnesses. Unexcused absences haven't changed, but it was brought to my attention that this last bullet, that family and individual family vacations and visits are unexcused absences. It was in other parts of our handbook, but it wasn't in this list form, and we thought it was important for it to be there. Dress code. We have added this because we're seeing a trend in student dress, of how they dress at school and how they dress at school-related events and represent the school district. There's a difference between those. So we have asked students, or will ask students, to make sure they're in compliance with the dress code at any school-related event or activity.
Susie, did we actually mention kids who pay good money for holes in their jeans?
No. Or that they pay too much for half a dress? No, we didn't. We have added two things for clarification for DAEP and for JJAEP. It's pretty much the same wording, that if you are attending either one of those on the last day of school and you're a senior eligible for graduation, you will not participate in graduation ceremonies. I will say that if a student does go into DAEP towards the end of the school year, they do review the students' records and files and activity, so that there is a possibility that they could go back to their main campus and participate in graduation, but obviously it depends on the offense as well as their behavior and commitment while they're in DAEP. One thing that you're going to see, just with Senate Bill 1153 and with the corrective action from TEA, is much more transparency to the public, especially our parents, on special education referrals, 504 referrals. So we have had this in our handbook in the past. We've just freshened it up a little bit with the TASB model, but you'll see it more and more places. In fact, in the fall, when we report to parents, if there's students being pulled for any type of intervention, we will also include all of this information, that if you do think your child has a disability, this is how you can go about referring them, or if you're wanting to seek 504 accommodations. So you'll see more and more of this. So we have our special education referrals. Our district contact, of course, is Micah Gerke. And then Section 504 referrals, and I'm the contact for that. And here are some websites that are provided by TEA that could be helpful for parents for resources. This is new in the spinal screening. In the past, it was for grades 6 and 9, and now it has changed where it is for all grades, and it will be done at the same time as vision screening. Parents do have the option to decline, and information will be sent home to parents so that they will have that option, and they'll also know what is going on when a student comes home. Some miscellaneous things, external lockdown occurs. No entry or exit is allowed to the buildings during an external lockdown. That wording was for internal lockdowns, but it should have also been included at some point in time for external lockdowns. And then another addition is state law requires the district to permit a student to be taken into legal custody under these conditions by a law enforcement officer to obtain fingerprints or photographs for comparison and investigation, and also to obtain fingerprints or photographs to establish a student's identity, where the child may have engaged in conduct indicating a need for supervision, such as running away. We have also changed the wording in the student handbook from cheating to academic dishonesty. It's just a much more encompassing word, and I think it's a better descriptor of what we're working with students sometimes. Transportation, we're counting the days. We have a new transportation company, Reliant. And these are some things that we have put in the handbook, just so that parents will be aware. For the first few weeks of school, there's not always assigned seating, but once we get, because especially that first week, the transportation is not like that for the whole rest of the school year. So once we get kids in that regular routine, there will be assigned seats, and that's really going to be necessary to ensure safety, and some kids have special needs that they need to be in certain locations in the bus. Something that's new, and I know there'll be some education going on through Reliant and Dana Chandler, is that all school buses are going to be equipped with a 3-point harness seat belts, and they must be worn at all times. And I think that that is going to be an education piece, for us with students, and the importance of that and how to do that. So, and it is considered, one of the things for our transportation. If you don't wear those, there are possible consequences, and those are outlined in detail in our handbook. But ultimately, if a student doesn't wear a seatbelt, they may be removed from transportation for part or the rest of the year. Additional changes might be coming up. As of now, we don't know any, but I just appreciate your consideration for our changes to the handbook. Do you have any questions? It's an easy crowd.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
I didn't want you to get off.
I know.
Actually,
it's a big head.
And we're going to require the seat belts to be used on field trips, athletic events, when the football team's moving from Northwest High School to the stadium in a bus. The 300-pound lineman's going to put the 3-point seat belt on.
My understanding is that all students will be using it.
Okay, so that's going to take some more training. I would think, get the coaches to have that.
I'm not worried about the ones that can buckle it themselves. It's all the littles. Those are the ones that it's going to be additional time, and we'll work through that because the safety of our students are important. But I'm sure we'll come up with some innovative ways to make sure that message gets through for everyone.
I think the worry is more for me, the little ones, yes, but the big ones, they're not used to putting on a seatbelt, and when they're juniors and seniors in high school and you're going to tell them what to do, there's going to have to be some real good training on the campuses as well as through the bus company with the parents.
I'm hoping that Reliant will be providing that. So,
do you know if in case of an accident or an emergency and they can't get them out of the seatbelts, are they going to have something on there to cut them out of those seatbelts?
Ms. Cobb, I do not know that. That would make sense. I asked Mrs. Chandler to enter that. Who is here? Oh.
Sorry to interrupt, but
no, I like you to interrupt.
I've walked some of the buses that are on the campuses now that are parked across the street, and there are at least 3 seatbelt cutters that are velcroed by the front of the driver. I don't know what the standard procedural protocols are for those yet, but I know they're there.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a note, and I'll find out some of that information for you for the next time, and maybe I can present that to you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just one about parents. I know it says stakeholders have reviewed this document, but the stakeholders would be the parents and the principals at the school level. Is that correct?
All administrators have had the opportunity to review, and we have presented it at DEIC. We've also gotten input from the campuses, and some of that information has come from parents. I have not given it to a group of parents per se.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Susie.
Okay, F, 2018-2023 Long Range Technology Plan. Dr. Warren?
Board, just like the Code of Conduct, this is a discussion item. Adam, along with working on our strategic framework, he and his group and his team have been working on our long-range technology plan. It's time to renew that as well. That information begins on page 275 in your packet. He will present this tonight, and he will present it again on the 25th for final approval. Adam, please.
Dr. Warren, thank you. Madam President, Board of Trustees, thank you for allowing me to present the long-range plan. I've got a little bit of background information I'd just like to go through with you real quick. The Technology Long-Range Plan is a state requirement. There is a 5-year requirement that we have to submit this plan. The goal from the state of Texas, I did include that in the link in the documentation that we sent to the trustees, is to improve connectivity in public education. And it's specifically tied to federal funding programs such as E-rate and other federal programs. One of the things that we do here at Northwest ISD to make it personal to the district is tie it to and align it to the mission, vision, and the goals. And as the trustee members know, we just adopted a new mission, vision, and goal statement. So it was important for us to get this back out to the committee members to go through and look at the actual plan and the planning documents. There are some specific requirements, which I won't go through in detail, but they are in the documentation provided, that will talk about how we aligned that to the mission and vision. We also utilized the plan to help us save as much money as possible, specifically with E-rate. And then we have community input from students, teachers, parents, administrators, auxiliary staff, and businesses on the plan itself. So the long-range plan itself, one of the things the Board of Trustees will remember is we adopted the current plan in 2015. And by creating the long-range plan, you can clearly see that we've helped maximize some of our funding commitments from federal funding. How has the plan maximized federal funding? Stop and look at this slide for just a second. It has allowed the district to reallocate resources and directly impact students. As you can see in the last 5 years, specifically after the first plan was adopted, the dollar figures went up strategically based on E-rate alignment that we did with the plan to replace infrastructure components. And in 2019, one of the things you'll see is we anticipate about $4.2 million coming back to the district in savings from some of the resiliency projects that we're doing, tying buildings together to maximize uptime and efficiency for the internal operations of the students and the staff. Additionally, some of the exciting changes, we're adding some personalization of learning. We're adding the trusted learning environment specifically to the plan as it relates to cybersecurity. That's one of the big initiatives that we've undertaken in technology to help parents and students understand what it means in the cybersecurity world to be safe and secure. And then we're focusing on the whole child. There's some specific statements in the plan that focus on the social emotional aspects of what we do with technology and how we integrate that within some of the components. Again, the plan was created in 2015, adopted in 2016 by a committee of students, teachers, administrators, and parents, and then it's updated as needed or when there's a strategic change like the strategic mission, vision, and goal statements as needed. Additional information, the Texas Long Range Plan is actually ending in 2021. I am on the Technology Long Range Infrastructure Committee at the state of Texas, so I'll have some direct input going into the state plan in the future, hopefully, and we'll see if the legislatures actually listen to what some of the districts have to say or not. E-rate funding is the federal offering. That's where we actually are utilizing most of our funding sources. The money that we actually get back is Category 2. I am also on a couple of committees that are working with E-rate. E-rate Category 2 funding is slated to go away after 2019. We are pushing some federal mandates, hopefully to try to get that changed. As you can see, we can save up to 50% of $6.9 million based on our current student enrollment, and that's in total over 5 years. So if you flip back to the chart, you can see where we've actually utilized most of those funding resources. And then what did we actually do with some of those funds and reallocations? We upgraded all of the network infrastructure components since 2015 when I started. We've upgraded all the wireless. We actually have, as of the end of this week, we'll have one wireless access point per classroom for students, and we're really pushing student wireless to help with the infrastructure there. And then in 2018, 2019, we'll replace all the batteries and UPSs. That's tied to E-rate, so we'll get 50% discount on that. And then we're going to, next year, we'll add the fiber ring for resiliency, redundancy, and uptime. And that's my presentation pretty quick. I can flip over to the actual plan if you would like. I hope that you guys read through it. I did not want to go through the plan in detail because it is quite lengthy. It is in the Public Relations Department now. We're wordsmithing all of the data. After this meeting, we'll go back and take any additions, changes, or input from the trustees and take that forward to present next time in the final plan. And at that point, I'll have the final plan, and that's all I'll present. Any questions?
Any input for Adam right now? Good job.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question because somebody asked me. We're just using Chromebooks now for everyone. It doesn't matter if they're third grade or 12th grade. Is that correct?
For the most part, that is correct. We do still utilize a Windows device at Steele.
Okay.
Some of the browsers are not supported at the college level. One of the strategic partners that we have in particular does not allow us to use a Chromebook. We believe we have that problem fixed, and we'll be able to use Chrome next year. We're working on that with virtual desktop. Most of the board members have heard me talk about how VDI is an equalizer. We'll have that implemented, and that should fix that problem. We'll go to Chromebooks. One of the goals that the board has heard me say before is that Chromebooks are really an equalizer and something that hopefully with the new IMAT funds, which I'm talking about the technology funds, and maybe something we can sustain over time. It'll be instructional resources that we'll have to supplant, but it may be some dollars that actually come from the state we can use to replace those as opposed to bond. Currently, those are in the bond planning stages from the 2017 bond.
Board, over the next couple of weeks, if you do go through there and if you have any input, just send that to me and we'll funnel that through to Adam.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, number 8A, Elementary and Secondary Education District Effectiveness Report. Dr. Warren.
Board, the information begins on page 303 on your effectiveness report. And Michael, are you first?
I am, and
in more ways than one,
following
Michael.
As well. I challenged him that I might be a little quicker than him, so we'll see who wins this challenge. Pardon me, my voice is still a little hoarse from a particular baseball game that I was at on Saturday, so you could probably understand that. So we're excited to share both an elementary and secondary report with you tonight. And this one? There we go. Excited for the first time to share our upcoming strategic framework. But what I'm going to share related to elementary tonight deals particularly with the strategic goal of increasing our students who are reading on level and early literacy in our early primary grades. And I'm very excited to share the data that we have from the end of our 2017-18 school year with you. Before we get to the data, one of the things that we really focused on this year was talking about balanced literacy and what that should look like in all of our classrooms. So we worked with teachers and administrators to deepen our knowledge and practice in workshop model, guided reading, and small group instruction. Skills block, which includes phonics, word work, and grammar. teachers holding reading conferences and setting goals with students, and students being able to respond to what they are reading about in their readers' response journals, and appropriate and timely feedback from the teachers and from peers as well to help move their learning forward. So the learning, the professional learning that we engaged in, and this was primarily with Dr. Johnson and our literacy coaches and Dr. Espinosa and myself, working with our teachers and our administrators to deepen our practice in guided reading and small group instruction. Skills block, as I referenced earlier. We have an annual literacy institute. This next year it will focus on writing in particular. One of the things that Dr. Johnson and our literacy coaches have started this year with our teachers are mega labs and micro labs, which is a unique learning opportunity where they go into the classrooms and work side by side with teachers, and we've had a lot of really positive response from our teachers and our administrators with that. And we also have had 2 learning cycles, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that is made of. This year in the fall and the spring, where we really spent time looking at our ELA curriculum, how it's being implemented in the classroom, and what our assessment data is showing us as a result of that. So our learning cycles process, we have campus leaders engage in this process throughout the year, and it really helps us have deep discussions to enhance our instructional leadership capacity and deepen our pedagogy. So the learning teams are made up of the principals, the assistant principals, and this year we added teacher leaders from the campuses that are comprised of a learning team. So at the elementary level, there are 4 or 5 schools that spend the year together as a learning team. And when we come together to meet in learning teams, we spend the day on at 2 different campuses, visiting classrooms and collecting evidence of exemplar teaching and learning that we see happening on those 2 campuses. So that would be the principals, assistant principals, teacher leaders, and the curriculum coordinator, and Dr. Espinosa and I engaged in that for the day. So you can see some examples of some of the work we did in learning teams related to literacy this year. One of the things that we have structured within our learning teams is grouping schools together that have similar demographics. So this particular piece on the left is from the West Central Learning Team, which is our 5 Title I campuses. So learning teams are able to really hone in on the learning needs of the students that they serve and target areas of focus for their teachers and their students. And we collect evidence throughout the day and put it in a Google slide so they can all go back and share at their campuses the outstanding teaching and learning that we saw happening on the 2 campuses that we visited. So in the picture on the right, this was a first grader who started the year reading below level, and in August, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see the writing was somewhat limited for a first grader, and by October, her writing had increased significantly. So those are the kinds of things that we collect evidence so that we can share that with teachers at other schools as well. So we really engage in a day with each learning team with deep discussions about curriculum implementation, the student outcomes that we're seeing in the student work, and set next steps and goals for campuses based on what we've seen in that day as well as what they've seen at their campus as well. So in the fall and the spring, we really focused on balanced literacy. We looked critically at guided reading instruction, our skills block in action and word work, and student goal setting, progress monitoring, and feedback were some of our key areas that we focused on. And so we always want to get feedback from people on our learning teams to see how it's impacting their role in the school, and also any feedback that they can give to us. So this teacher said, I appreciated the honesty and the trust that was shared. Everyone was open and honest about great things they saw at our school, as well as things we could improve on. I appreciated the fact that we were able to leave with next steps that gave me a focus and a sense of direction upon returning to my team. And an assistant principal said, I appreciate the trust and collaborative nature of our team. We all come in with open minds and are able to learn and grow together. It builds a learning network that extends outside of those meeting times. And a principal said, we spent time on my campus and received some great feedback from those who attended the learning walks that will help us moving forward. I'm thankful for a positive, solution-focused culture that the learning walks help provide on all of our campuses. It is without a doubt the best professional learning I've had in a long time and makes me a better leader for my students and teachers. So I think that is definitely reflective in our end of the year data. You can see at all 4 of our grade levels, the percent of students who finish the year reading on or above grade level. And you can see in comparison to where we were this time last year, each grade level has seen an increase in where their students ended the year on their reading level. And then another thing 2 years ago we started tracking was the percent of students who end the year making a year's growth. So 86% of our kindergartners made at least a year's growth from where they were in the beginning of the year, 91% of our first graders, and 89% of our second graders. And you can see how that compares to where we were this time last year as well. And the only state data that we have so far is our 5th grade STAR results. So looking at the first administration in both reading and math with our 5th graders, from comparing last year to this year, 87% of our 5th graders were at the approaches standard level on the reading STAR and 90% on math. Both of those increased quite a bit after our 2nd administration. We also saw an increase in the percent of those same students who were at the meets standard level, with about 2/3 of our students at meets standard, and about 1/3 of our students performing at the mastered level in both reading and math. So then we looked at, well, how does that compare with the same group of kids? So you'll see the light blue bar was last year's 4th graders who are now this year's 5th graders. And we saw an increase in the cohort in reading in both approaches. We saw a 7% increase, an 11% increase in those that were at the MET standard, and a slight increase in those that were performing at the mastered level. And similarly in math, comparing last year's 4th graders with this year's 5th graders, same group of kids, we had a 10% increase in math, a 16% increase at the MET standard, and a 7% increase at the mastered standard. So since the last time we shared an update with you, we've had 2 of our elementary schools named as National Schools of Character. 2 of our schools are Leader in Me schools, and we've had 3 schools recognized as schools transforming learning. And some of the challenges that are no surprise to you, I know, are fast growth as we continue to get new kids in our doors on a daily basis. Determining where they are and then making an instructional plan to move them forward to help them meet the end of the year goal, as well as bringing new teachers on board and making sure they have the same level of understanding and implementation of our curriculum is always a challenge for us. Our changing demographics and our varying needs of our students continue to be challenges that we work to strive to minimize. And some things that we're excited about, we are implementing the Lucy Calkins reading units of study. It currently is in K through 2. Next year we're adding 3rd grade. And we're also adding the units of study in writing in K through 4 next year. So that will definitely increase our literacy focus on balanced literacy. Dr. Espinosa is leading a team, a balanced literacy committee that's made up of teachers, administrators, and central office folks to really take a look at our balanced literacy, in particular with our phonics, and looking at what are our needs in the curriculum and also our training needs for all of our teachers in K through 2. So that is something that we will be rolling out. The committee is currently engaged in that work, and the training and implementation will occur when the school year starts, really focusing on those aspects of a balanced early literacy program. And that is all. Are there any questions before I turn it over to Dr. Ferris?
I do have a question.
Okay.
I wrote the question down where I wouldn't forget it, and I forgot where I wrote it. As your teachers get together and they talk about their students and the successes they've had with various students, are those documented somewhere in kind of a library of those type of successes, or do people just take notes and say, oh, that sounds like a good thing for my kids?
Are you talking about in our learning team?
Yes.
Yes. So we compile that into Google Slides, and it's then shared with everyone on the learning team, and it's also shared with all of the principals at all of our elementary schools. So they have a bank of exemplar teaching practices and exemplar student work that they're able to refer back to and share with their teachers. We organize it by grade level, so it's easy to see. These are kindergarten examples all the way first through fifth grade. And then each campus team also sets some next steps that they're going to go back and practice on their campus, whether it be sharing things that they learned that day or things that they may want to take a more critical look at on their campus. And that's added into that Google slide also, so we all have access to see what is everyone working on. So there may be a campus similar to me that's going to focus on the same thing, so I could reach out to them and we could problem solve together.
Thank you. Those amazing results. So thank you for the challenge.
I have a question.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, but I was just wondering, what do you have in place that's actually helping the struggling readers that are not making grade level?
Well, we have most definitely enhanced our RTI process this year. We hired an RTI facilitator who will be a coordinator next year, and she has really brought some great systems to our campuses, and we have heard from principals and teachers alike that it really is making a big impact on the work that they're engaging with students who are struggling. We also have reading recovery and our intervention specialists at our campuses helping with our struggling students as well.
Do you know how many campuses we have reading recovery, working with children?
Let's see. We have, how many? We have out of 17 campuses, I believe we have 9 reading recovery specialists. Is that right? So the majority of them are.
They're paid for out of Title I funds.
Some of them.
Thank you.
And then we have our interventionists at each of our campuses. All 17 have at least one interventionist as well to work with struggling students.
So when you say interventionist, you mean a STAR teacher?
Yes. Any other questions? Okay.
In our remaining 2 minutes that she left me, we'll go over some highlights of secondary education. Again, we were very excited about transitioning into and really refining our work into the next strategic framework. Specifically, we're moving a lot of our language in secondary from participation and performance in advanced academics to our strategic goal 1 that you see there, that to me is a little more encompassing, and it's not focused just on advanced academics, but will definitely still continue to improve that alignment between instruction that's going on in the classroom with what student performances that we're seeing. Too often, we have spent a lot of our attention on recruiting students in there. Now it's time for us to continue to invest in their performance once they're in those courses. A couple of quick highlights that we have. Just as a quick reminder, through the College Board, we have a variety of advanced placement, AP recognitions that our students can earn. You can see there that there's a leveling system, whereas students are able to receive 3 or better. 3 on a scale of 5 is considered passing or earned credit. So when they earn a 3 or 4 or a 5, an AP Scholar is a student that is able to earn that earned credit in 3 or more AP courses in a calendar year. AP Scholar with honors, you can see there that they also maintain 3.2 scoring performance on that, and they score on 4 or more. And then it moves up with scholars with distinctions, moves to at least a 3.5 and earning 3 on or higher on 5 or more. So it progressively gets more challenging for our students. The National AP Scholars are one of our highest recognitions, where they are able to earn at least a 4 on AP exams and scores of 4 or higher on 8 or more of these exams. And so these are some of our elite students that are very engaged, carrying a very rigorous course load. You'll note there that they are able to earn on 8 or more on a 7-period day. And so they are doubling up, they are tripling up in some areas. Another area of a distinction that we like to note is our National Hispanic Recognition Program. There's 3 criteria there that you see there that's outlined by the College Board, and we have a growing student population that's definitely earning recognition in that area. Look at some of our data for that. You can see what just our overall AP placements, our exams is one of our indicators that we like to present now. This is a participation score, if you will, and you can see that we've had a gradual incline in the numbers of exams that students are paying for and that they're taking, upwards of almost 5,000 tests. As we look at the number of those that scored 3s, 4s, or 5s, you can see that it's varied, but we've locked into about half of our students now are able to earn college credit on the AP courses as they take those tests in May each year. When we look at the various recognitions that we had indicated earlier, you see that nearly all of these are increasing with time. So our totals have increased with those recognitions. You can see there that we've had steady increases in each one of those areas. As you get down lower on that scale, those are those that are earning in 8 or more exams, 4 or more exams. It becomes more of a challenge for those students there, but we're very proud of the performance of our students on those AP exams. I want to also call attention, U.S. News and World Report does have a criteria that they follow that looks at College Board participation. It also looks at performance, a variety of other indicators. And for the 2nd year in a row, Steele has been recognized as on the bronze level, based in small part on their state testing, where they had a 97% proficiency with reading and 100% of their math students. With our advanced academics, we look at dual credit enrollment. This has gotten a little more, I don't want to say complicated, but it's more diverse. With the onset of on-ramps, and as those begin to grow, you will notice there with the UT on-ramps, we had a spike last year up to 831 participants, and that dropped a little bit. What we can attribute to that is the rigor that those students encountered in that class and word of mouth. Those are very challenging classes. We are doing a great job of recruiting for those students that are interested in that. But you can see that our overall participation in dual credit enrollment in the variety of entities that we have is growing over time. And I think with the addition of the EIC local additions, where we're going to be weighting those, we will continue to see a steady increase in dual credit participation and performance. You can see the kind of a breakdown of our students in advanced academics there. We still are predominantly an AP district with our students there. And a lot of that has to do with cost. It also has to do with the variety of courses that we offer in our AP program. And then our dual credit is increasing at a pretty good tick. But that does have some cost involved that incurred by families, and as well as the convenience of AP. With our avid support for students that are in advanced academics, we continue to see a growth in that area as we roll out into year 3 of implementation. Next year we will be beginning our AVID 3, which is our junior level. So our first cohort of students that started with us as 8th graders will be juniors next year. And in looking at our enrollment up until now with students that have signed up for courses, we should continue to see increases in those courses. And we're really going to begin really tracking more closely those students' performance against their peers to really see how that investment is returning for us. Looking at our CTE Academy Capacity Study, we do this each year where we look at the various academies as to what their overall capacity by individual student is. You'll see that there in the left column, as well as their seat capacity as to how much can they accommodate with enrollment in more than one course. And you'll see that many of our academies are definitely reaching that saturated rate. We still have room in STEM, as you can see, as well as cosmetology and the business academy or two that come to note there. Aviation Academy has proven a little bit of a challenge in developing and attracting students with some of the costs associated with that. And so we're working on some ways to keep that at a minimum. One of the things that our coordinators are doing is they are continuing to recruit in those areas that we have capacity. And so even now in June, as students enroll or as students express an interest, we're still looking for opportunities for those students to join us in the fall in the various capacities that they can have and really pursuing hopefully a career that's of interest to them. We see that our industry certifications has been a focus as well with our career and technical education, and that number is incomplete. I can tell you that was the number as of print time when Ms. Carlisle needed this report to her, but there are a lot of those certifications that students continue to earn even in the month of June as they're finishing up various aspects. And I know a couple of board meetings ago, Ms. Braswell shared out some of those exciting pieces, but this is a year-round industry, so we are continuing to add those to our courses as well as students earning them with time. Much as Dr. Griffin shared, secondary also has a learning cycle program that we go throughout the year. In the fall, we focused on math pedagogy and writing pedagogy and language arts. We follow a very similar process where our teams are broken into a middle school team and a high school team, and they meet at sometimes independently and sometimes they meet together as a secondary group. They start a cycle with an instructional focus, something that the content coordinators want to call to the attention of administrators. And we have begun inviting teachers to those meetings as well and saw that as a great value. And then campuses go back for a period of about a week and a half to really calibrate, go into classrooms. What evidence are they seeing? We began to build our Google Docs at that time where they're collecting pictures and different artifacts of student work. And then when we come back, we begin to evaluate that together as a team. So they go and calibrate as a campus. They come back together and review and look at that. And then they go back and build some plans of action of how they're going to improve that particular aspect. And then we close the cycle out with some look-forwards and some things that we want to persist in that cycle when we turn our attention to whatever the next topic is. This spring, we turned our attention away from content-specific cycles and really started looking at student performance. What types of assessment data do we have? We had one campus that presented a program at the middle school level where they were including social emotional and an empathy unit into their language arts program. And we had a great time for all the middle schools to be able to see what one campus is doing with a student panel, going into classrooms and seeing that in action. And that was very exciting for them to be able to see how some of their peers are attacking some of the different aspects of what we have. Next year, we hope to have a stronger focus within our learning cycles on student performance. So we're wanting to overlay a student data piece that goes with that on a quarterly report. Looking at fine arts, our extracurricular are a big part of us in secondary. We still maintain very high participation rates, both at middle school and high school. High school is lots of distractions, lots of things that students can be involved in. And so being able to maintain nearly half of our students in continuing in a fine art program as they move through high school is definitely something that we're proud about in our district. There you can see a quick glance of the various disciplines within fine arts of where they're participating, and all of those showing increases that are oftentimes outpacing the student growth that we have for our district. This year, we were named Best Communities for Music Education in America and have been for the last prior 8 years, and so that is something I know Dr. Lacefield and his team are very excited about. I had some slides in there that I was asked to keep under time, but all 3 of our musicals they've presented to you guys and given some vignettes in here, and they've all been recognized at the state and region level for their performances. This year, one thing that was unique that some of you were able to participate in is we had a fine arts breakfast that recognized our graduates. We have 27 graduates that are earning fine arts scholarships in the total of over $3.5 million. And so that was a very exciting, that is all 3 campuses represented in one very talented picture. Athletically, we look at participation rates and being able to maintain those. And you can see at the middle school level, we have more than half of our students that are engaged in athletics beginning in 7th grade. And many of those students carry on into high school. We're right at a third to almost half of our high school students are engaged there. And this year we had 55 college signees, and there might be a few more baseball. I don't know. They're starting to trickle in. Some of the things on the horizon for secondary, we want to have a continued focus on not only access and participation, but also on performance in advanced academics and also improving Tier 1 instruction for those students that are in on-level courses. Our PLC focus will be on formative data and analysis and those interventions that are associated with that. We're very excited about high school AVID 3 rollouts, and I'll be happy to alert y'all as we get closer to that in the fall. One of the things that we're planning is in their junior year, that is oftentimes the first time kids will take the SAT or the ACT, and one of the AVID activities is to tailgate for those activities. And so we will have a breakfast in tents and have a hot meal to hand them as they walk in, and they have one more encouraging face or somebody with a key to go in and get them an ID from their front office if they show up without an ID, but to have one more familiar face right as they walk in to take their first standardized test is an exciting event. And then we have our secondary kickoff camps this summer where we take our students that are at risk and we bring them in a couple of weeks early and begin to invest in them, not only socially but also academically at key points in entering 6th grade from 5th grade and then also entering 9th grade from 8th grade. Any questions?
I have a question about the academies. Is the Aviation Academy the only one that costs our students extra, or do they all cost?
No, ma'am. They have a variety of costs associated with culinary, for example, with El Centro has some cost available with those. There are a variety of dual credit classes that students can take. With our Project Lead the Way courses, they now have a course that they can take. It's like an AP exam, similar, that they could pay to have that and they can earn credit for that. And we had a large number of our students in biomedical that earned credit in that fashion as well. And anything, she's about to jump out of her chair, so I'll acknowledge her. Yes, ma'am.
Just on the culinary, this first year, we actually had to cover the cost for that. Our student originally came on a grant from Congo. Once the grant reduced, we no longer got the previous 17 hours. The short-term grant that we were not made aware of, and we did not have the cost of our students. So the first year we did, and the next year they have options to pay. So they did the full cost model. However, the student is fully enrolled, they still stay in class while they're sitting there. One student might be paying for the college credit, the other student might be paying for high school credit. Then they're fully enrolled in the class. We've also done this now that he had to go to the grant and got into the American Airlines. So we have seen our application program, and our instructors actually going to this one for OAP. It allows our students to get their ground school in-house via a three-dimensional model that's going to be through the computer so that they can get a base ground school and not have to pay then they're only having to pay the class. They can get the basic ground school in-house and we're doing everything to get that possible.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 8B, School Health Advisory Council Report. Dr. Warren?
Board, you get this report from George yearly, and he's done a great job again this year working with our SHAC committee, and we're looking forward to he is looking forward to giving you the report.
My apologies on the lack of details this year. I was advised to trim it back from the 52 original slides and remove all videos, so this is what we got. As Dr. Warren mentioned right there, this is an annual report required by the state. This year we had 21 members, 15 community members, and 6 district employees, which our goal every year is, and we're getting closer just a little bit every year, is to have at least a community member or district employee from every campus. So if you look at the numbers there, we're almost there. Our current and future NISD SHAC committee chair is Ms. Heather Harrison. She's been with us for several years now. Most of y'all probably know her. She does a fantastic job, has a couple kids in the district, and is very, very important to us on the SHAC committee. We have a returnee at the Vice Chair Committee. She was new this year, came in halfway to replace our Vice Chair, and she'll be returning with us next year. She's done a great job assisting the setup of several of our guest educator programs that we work with our 6th grade PE programs. She is Lucky Daniga. She's the Director of Therapy Services at Texas Health. Another returnee is our Secretary, Heather Johnson. A lot of you probably know her as well. She's a part of our Big Go Red campaign and Jump Rope for Heart. She's been a huge resource for us over the years, and she also helped assist in the donation of several CPR dummies to the district for staff and student trainings. Our activities this year, most of you are probably familiar with our reindeer romp. We've been going on 10 plus years now. We had over 3,200 kids participate, which that would put it at about our 3rd or 4th largest, which some of that the reason for a little drop in numbers is we're kind of trying to push towards the paperless route for sign-ups, and everything's going online, and so that's sometimes a little tough for elementary parents as they're used to getting everything in the folder and stapling checks and sending it on. And so we were a couple hundred less, but it was still a really great turnout this year. Other things we've done, guest speakers for the first aid and summer safety and nutrition classes all through our 6th grade PE classes. Again, that went with our Texas Health, bringing in guest educators and kind of blocking off each middle school and bringing those guys through there. SHAC's also helped with support of our elementary and 6th grade run clubs. Our elementary kids, we track through a Stride Track training program, and they ran 50,748 miles this year, just either before or after school with their running club program. So that was pretty exciting to work with. Also, we continued our Go Red Week, American Heart Association, Jump Rope for Heart, Hoops for Heart. We put kind of in writing, it's been around for a long time, the soft drink policy, no school sales. That was something that was asked of us to kind of put together a policy that we kind of had in writing this year. So nothing really changed there, but we have a stance on it. For our 2nd year, we were involved with the Kids Teaching Kids 21-Day Challenge. Cox Elementary was our champion this year, which they received $1,000 from Kroger for the total or most number of kids that participated in the 21-day challenge and filling out surveys beginning and end and creating different snacks throughout the year. And then another one of our projects this year is Project Adam, and Tricia Atzinger-John, one of our nurses, she did an awesome job starting this program, bringing in AED certifications. We've had several schools that have already accomplished this, and most of our campuses are already doing a lot of this. It's just getting everything in place, going through the checklist and the trainings to create heart-safe schools. Future activities, Reindeer Romp again, continue on. It's going to be December 8th, again at Alliance Airport this year. We're going to continue with our 6th grade PE lecture series with Texas Health, and we're looking at changing up a little things, kind of getting, we've hit nutrition pretty hard the last and safety. We're looking at maybe some mental health type stuff and character development. 6th grade PE CPR certification, or introduction, not certification, but in training. American Heart Association is going to partner with this and bring that into our 6th grade PE classes as well, so that they're exposed to CPR training. Our back to school fair, we've had a meeting with Phil in communications and seeing how we can be a part of the health side of the back to school fair. So we've got some different ideas that we're working there. Again, continuing with our run clubs and our partnership with the American Heart Association. And again, like I mentioned before, we're looking into more mental health type programs, character development. Our very last meeting of the year, we had a great turnout. We have a ton of outside groups that are on board and giving us a lot of different ideas and a lot of help in trying to bring some of these programs to all of our kids. Again, our membership goals, one per campus, and again, community outreach involvement in bringing in those county organizations and different hospitals. We have a ton of resources just in our own backyard. Our meeting dates, the first one's set for September 10th, but at our last meeting, it was decided to kind of wait and see, and I think we just got a lot of the board dates that just came out so that we weren't on the same nights, and so all of those will be set for the remainder of the year. September 10th, the state requires 4, we do 5, and so all of those dates will be coming here pretty quick. Again, like I mentioned, Reindeer Romp, we had over $14,000 that was raised for the physical education departments this year. And big thank you to Fieldhouse and all of the sponsors that have been on board with that. It just continues to grow with sponsorships. It's really a great event. We hope to continue with that. Our Go Red Week, over $900 was raised by the NISD staff for the T-shirts. And amazing total, we were one of the largest ones in the area. $105,000 was raised district-wide, with Lakeview Elementary hitting $22,000 alone. So that's a pretty big number for Jump Rope for Heart. And then we had some middle schools as well doing Hoops for Heart. Medlin Middle School did a faculty dodgeball game to raise money for the American Heart Association as well, which Kitty's not a huge fan of all that. But on our website, that's where all of our dates and stuff can be found, meeting minutes and different programs from some of our partners. And questions? Short, I know. I'm sorry.
Hey, George, just want to take back to your committee. I appreciate the work they do.
Thank you.
I served on that committee for a little bit, so I know there's some good stuff coming out of there. But since we're talking about CPR, I'll tell you a funny story. Seven Hills, I was volunteering at their running fundraiser, and all of a sudden you look out and you see 2 fifth-grade boys doing CPR on each other. And you're going, what in the world is, and then you realize that the song they're playing for motivation is Staying Alive. And what are you taught how to do, what beat do you do CPR to? Staying Alive. And it's like, so it clicked. They heard the song, it's time to do CPR. So it's 5th grade,
As long as they're not pushing too hard.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like, the PE teacher started to get upset. I said, hey, don't get upset. They're doing what you taught them. And so yeah. Good job for the PE teachers.
Anything else?
Thank you.
George. Thank you.
Okay, 8C, Post Pricing Information, Unlimited Tax School Building Bonds Series 2018. Dr. Warren?
Board, John just wanted to have give you a brief report on our just most recent bond sale, which we did very well on. John, please.
Yeah, on May 29th, y'all approved the adoption of a parameter order authorizing the issuance of $100 million in bonds. That was the first issuance from the 2017 election of $399 million. It was done the next day on Wednesday, May 30th. So we now have $299 million to go. And the report that is on the screen is prepared by the Senior Underwriting Manager, BOK Financial Securities. Essentially, I can't really read that. Oh, there we go. Let me get my schedule. All right. But essentially what happened is we successfully sold it at an all-in true interest rate of 3.69%, and this is 0.4% below what was communicated to the board that night, which is about $8.3 million less. What happened was, though, it was kind of interesting what a small world we live in, and this is from First Southwest Assets Management's May 31st strategy recap from the next day. It says the euro is pretty shaky already, but if Italy, its third largest member, to exit, there's doubt as to whether France and Germany could hold it all together. On Tuesday, speculation had run amok, volatility had increased, and stock market prices were mostly down. Yields in Italy spiked, while bond yields in Germany and the United States plunged in a flight to quality. So Grazie. That's, I mean, in all seriousness, it's funny, but the world we live in, we have a political crisis in Italy, and a U.S. bond sale down here in River City suddenly comes out much better. I mean, so much better that we actually got a better rate than we got on last year's issuance of $100 million, about 17 basis points, even though the Federal Reserve has raised rates 75 basis points. So that's nearly 1% less than what you'd kind of expect based on the economy. So my deepest thanks to the Italian government and so forth and so on. So that's really outstanding to think that you could come a year later in a rising interest rate environment and come out with less. Essentially, as I said, we raised $100 million, and that's what this is basically telling you here on this schedule. It does show that the very bottom of this page is kind of interesting. We had a bond election in 2001, 4 years later, 2005, 3 years later, 2008, 4 years later, 2012, and then the big draw-out was 5 years later, 2017. So somewhere between 3 and 5 years from 17, which is getting here closer every year, we can expect another bond authorization election. So there's your predictability on that. This is just showing the interest rate graphs. Essentially, we got in at 3.9%, which is way below the historical average. The lowest was back at towards the end of 2016. That's all there is, and so we got a very good rate. The same thing is being said here. We got essentially the lowest rate since January of 2018, so good deal there. Here's the distribution of the sale. About half of Wells Fargo ended up, interestingly enough, buying about 49% of it, and then it was spread around a bunch of other investors, essentially. They did reprice during the sale to get the best interest rate possible, and a small amount, about 5.4%, was actually purchased by the underwriting team. And this is just showing the stock orders and who placed them and things of that nature. The investor orders typically always are credited to the senior manager, so don't read in too much into this schedule that BOK did all the work. All the firms participated very well, and we're very pleased with their performance in this sale. What this shows here in the yellow is an interesting one, and that shows how many oversubscribed. Like, say for example, in one bracket we had $2 million issued, and we had a 2.4. That means we received over $4 million worth of orders, and we had some selectivity. We had a couple of brackets where we do not have a number 1 or greater, and what that means is we didn't receive enough orders to actually sell our bonds. So this can cause a serious problem, except that's what I was referring to earlier when I said the underwriting team itself stepped up and they purchased those bonds for their own portfolios to resell to their institutional customers. And so that way we were able to get the entire $100 million cleared off the decks and didn't have $5 million still hanging at the end of the day. This is another piece of information. I think most of y'all have seen this before, but we have done 6 refunding programs and $4.1 million existing bond where we just bought it back in by itself, which have generated $83 million in savings since 2015. So that we've had a very active refunding program as well as an issuance program to take advantage of the lower interest rates and allow us the flexibility to be able to continue to issue our bonds. And our forecasts, our pro formas that are done by our financial advisor, Hilltop Securities, show that we should, all assumptions being fairly conservative at this point, be able to continue to issue the bonds at the rate of about $100 million a year until the entire issuance authorization has been issued. And this, of course, is our team. Hilltop Securities, Jeff Robert is our financial advisor, bond counsel, Chuck Kovdish with McCall Parkhurst, and then Moody's and Fitch. I would point out that Moody's and Fitch did reaffirm our ratings, and our underlying ratings are AA2 with Moody's, which means rated as high quality and very low credit risk. And for Fitch, they're AA, which denotes expectations of very low default risk. They indicate very strong capacity for payment of financial commitments. So a very strong financial profile in the market, and that's reflected in the lower interest rates. And all this is very theoretical. What it means is we got a better deal on borrowing money so that our taxpayers get more bang for their buck in constructing schools for their children. And that's what it really is all about, is getting the best deal possible so we can construct better schools for kids and pay for them the least amount that we can on the credit market. Be happy to answer any questions.
Grazie. Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 9, consider any items moved from the consent agenda. There were none. Item 10, Board President's Report. Don't forget we have the SLI Conference June 28th through the 30th in Fort Worth at the Omni Hotel. And our TASB Convention is September 28th through 30th in Austin. Registration opens June 19th. Let Jennifer know if you'd like to attend. And then I have a presentation from Mr. Sluter. Down here. This is for his service as board president from 2016 to 2018.
Aww.
Yeah, how many of those do you have? Okay, item 11, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Warren?
All right, Board, just a couple of things. Number one is we do want to say a big congratulations, Joel. Make sure just the accomplishment of our state championship for Eaton High School baseball. They had an amazing season. And it was a great effort by our coaches, our kids, our parents. Had a great following all year by the supporters. So that was a great situation. Board, just a couple of dates you need to take note of. Just coming up as we start thinking about the beginning of the school year. New teacher breakfast Monday, August the 13th, 7:30 a.m. at Northwest High School. And then, of course, convocation will be a week later. It'll be on Tuesday, August the 21st, 1 p.m. back at the church, Gateway Church in South Lake. So we'd love for every single one of you to be at that. Board, there are 2 documents that you need that we have to get you to sign every year. You have a technology resources agreement and you have a release of public education form. Please sign those and return those to Jennifer before you leave tonight, please. And then, Board, the last thing that I want to talk to you about on the very last page of your packet, and then Angela also gave you a printed copy. I want us to start talking a little bit earlier this year about our legislative priorities. I want to bring this back up to you in the next 2 to 3 meetings and really us talk about, I think we did a little late last year, and I want to get kind of more centered from your feelings of where we need to, you want us to go toward legislative discussions. So I want to start looking at these now and really get your thoughts over the next couple of meetings on what we need to advocate for and or advocate against. So just think about those, what we did. We'll start getting TASA's recommendations in, TASB's recommendations in, and then we'll, but really the most important thing for me is what your recommendations will be for our priorities. Madam President, that's all I've got.